licensee. Check all the boxes, right? I'm a firearms instructor. I'm very involved with the National Rifle Association. Have a position that's called RSO, Chief RSO. That's a person who is a Chief Range Safety Officer. That's someone who does supervise and overlook firearms training events at gun ranges. And wait, you did a signal. What did that mean? Well, let me see. Let me take a poll by the class. Okay, lights off. Yeah, we want to be in the dark. A whole bunch of well, everyone's not strangers. Many of you I've met before at some portion or era of my life, man. And this whole walk with guns, is really interesting because believe it or not, maybe 20 years ago, I wasn't even really into guns per se. Not too many years before that, I had got married and bought a house. And, you do the things that people do when they get married and buy a house, man. First order of business was some of the elders in the family said, well, do you have a gun? And I'm like, nah. They were like, well, you're a homeowner, you're head of household, you have a family here. One of the chief, most important things that you as head of household, you need to do is you need to assure that you have an ability to protect everyone in your home. And the best way to do that, as I was told, was to buy a 12-gauge shotgun, right? And so that's what I did. I went to a gun range. I can't even remember the name of the gun range. They're not even open anymore. Was it Northwest Guns? Was there a place called Northwest Guns?
Are you talking about on Myers or something?
Yeah. And I bought a 12-gauge shotgun. And as I was given this shotgun, it was really a surreal experience because they brought this box out to me and they gave it to me and they were like going out of their way to make my purchase of this long box discreet with everyone watching me with this long box. And I'm like, oh my God, it's like, what in the world am I doing? Like I'm engaging in some socially unpopular behavior and they're trying to kick me out of the store. And so anyway, I bought the shotgun and called one of my uncles over. He came over and helped me put it together. It was my first puzzle, right? Put it together, showed me how to load it and chamber it. And he just basically said, look, man, if you ever perceive a need to use it, it's real easy. And this is what he said. He said, put the stock right in your shoulder and just aim it in the general vicinity and squeeze, right? And so yeah, that was my indoctrination. But other than that, I didn't really perceive a need. But I remember not too many years after that, I suffered the indignity of being robbed at gunpoint in my own driveway. And that literally was an event that for me was a personal moment. It caused me to take a look at this whole gun question a little more deeply and sincerely and ask myself, well, gee, why don't you have a pistol and a concealed pistol license? Back during this era, recently at this time, the gun rights community in Michigan in 2001, if I'm not mistaken, they recently revised the statute such that our concealed pistol licenses became shall issue. And some of you that have been around as long as I have, you know that before we got shall issue in 2001, we had this whole discretionary deal. And under this may issue discretionary deal, essentially anyone who was important got it. And if you weren't important, you didn't get it. Well, what do you mean by important? I mean by you are a recognizable figure. You hold a political office of some sort. If you're a celebrity, you're rich, you donate a lot of money to certain causes or to certain people and what they do. So yeah, they got them, and if you were not special, if you were not important, then no, you did not get one. And so I then embraced this whole shell issue thing. And at that time, I went ahead and I bought a gun, Northwest Guns, had no idea what I was doing. The gun I ended up buying, probably wouldn't be the gun that I would buy now, but I bought something that was of decent quality. It didn't cost me too much money. And applied for a CPL. And the whole thing about that whole CPL deal, back in those days, man, you would apply for your permit and then they would tell you by mail like 11 months, a year later, hey, we approved you. And I'm like, oh, wow, I almost forgot that I actually applied for it. And that's kind of a sentiment, show you how things go in the circle. That's kind of where we are. Either are we, I don't know if we're still there now or if we just recently passed through this era. But, I continued to walk the path and very involved with a lot of gun rights activities. One thing that gives me a lot of pleasure is that I've been able to call upon a lot of friends, a lot of fellow trainers, and a lot of range safety officers and a lot of sponsors to do a big thing for women every year. Training women with firearms. It's not a end to end, we're going to teach you everything about guns. It's more like a familiarization. Ooh, did I get all of those syllables? Familiarization of a gun and basic fundamental firearm safety rules. And after we do another iteration, I'm not quitting, I'm going to keep doing it. If we get at least another 1,500 women trained this upcoming July, the last weekend of July, whatever that date that is, we will have trained 10,000 women over the life of the program over its 13-year run. It'll be 13 years.
13 years already?
It'll be 13 years at the end of July next year. So, cool. Yes, question.
I attended it, so thank you.
You know what?
And I was hooked.
Really?
Well, it took, yep.
How long ago was that?
Last summer.
Last summer? That was your first time?
Yep.
That was the first time you heard of it?
No, it was set up for last year, but I got real sick and couldn't attend.
Okay.
As soon as I saw it, I jumped right on it.
Oh, I'm glad you showed up because let me tell you.
My instructor, we chat. She's rock solid. I love her.
Well, let me tell you, I truly mean this. Of anything I've done of a professional basis, like in terms of what I do with guns, that is single-handedly the most thing that I'm proud of in terms of an actual activity and in some material way giving back to the community. As I tell you, just knowing that there are people out there who do nothing but prey upon people that they perceive to be weak, people who they see as an easy so-called score, someone that they can assault and otherwise victimize and not have any consequences. So yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to train women to deliver consequences for bad behavior. But other than that, the only other thing I had happen recently was back in April, I got elected to the National Rifle Association's Board of Directors. So I have my little pen. And here's the thing, winning, normally it's like a 3-year term. But during the official election, it's, the ballot comes in the monthly magazine. And if you're voting eligible, you'll get a ballot. And so I went through that whole campaign season. I was like, hey, vote for Rick, vote for Rick, vote. The election results were announced. I am proud to tell you, out of, 28 people who were running, only the top 25 actually get elected. Out of the 28 people who were running, I came in 28th place.
Yeah, but you got in.
It was, let me tell you, in all sincerity, all the time that I invested in campaigning and all that stuff, hey, vote for me, and meeting people and shaking hands and asking for votes. It was a very, in all truth, it was a very humbling experience. And I came in last, but you know what? I said, well, I'm going to the annual meeting. They have this thing called the 76th director. And the voting for the 76th director only happens at the annual meeting. And the people who show up who are NRA members, regardless of how many years they've been a member, regardless of how many years they've been in the organization, if they're NRA member, if they just joined yesterday, they can vote. And so what I did was I pounded the pavement and walked up to complete strangers and said, hey, I'm Rick Ector. Hey, I'm running for the board of directors. Vote for me. And some people said, sure. And then some people will say, hey, you know, I'm mad at the NRA. And I'm like, okay. I say, so what's your issue? And then we'll go through and talk. And then some people are like, I'm too busy. But here's the thing. You just keep going and you keep going and you keep shaking hands and you keep talking to people. And at the end of that weekend, I actually won the 76th director. So that for me was very satisfying. But enough about me. Let's talk about you. You all are here because obviously you have a desire to learn more about some legislation that actually passed here in the state of Michigan. This legislation actually passed a few months back. And the thing is that in my opinion, right, I'm very opinionated, in my opinion, there hasn't been a lot of media coverage one way or another to actually inform people that a lot of the legislation that a lot of gun people wanted actually passed. Now, based...
That's because they want to catch everybody by surprise and start grabbing stuff.
Well, I don't know if necessarily if it's to catch anyone by surprise per se. The margin by which these anti-gun bills passed wasn't by a certain percentage. Okay. If it had passed by a certain percentage, and you know what, I should have looked up what that number was, but if it passed by a certain percentage, it would then have immediate effect. That is, once the governor signs it, okay, boom, it's the law from that second on. So the margin by which the law passed, it wasn't that great. So what happens is that after that session of the legislature, then you look at your calendar and count off 90 days. And then when you count off 90 days, that day is when those laws are actually live and when they actually will go into effect. And what did I do? I pulled out a calendar and I counted 90 days. 1, 2, all the way to 90. Guess what day is the 90th day? Valentine's Day. And I don't know if they calculated Valentine's Day, if they wanted to send a message in some way, fashion or another, but Valentine's Day it is. On February 14th, Valentine's Day, when people are spending time with their significant other, exchanging cards and, you know, googly eyes at each other, that will be the day that these 3 gun laws will indeed go into effect. The one that I've been really fixated on for years has been, I shouldn't say years like it's been forever, but at least the last 4 years or so. This was when I first heard about this so-called red flag law. And as I was hearing information about it, I didn't really delve into it because I didn't have a perceived need to do it. It was just a buzzword or term that I've heard, and I didn't really pay it much mind. But it wasn't until a local state rep here in the Metro Detroit area, Robert Wittenberg, he went on, I guess, a little publicity campaign tour, and this was like 4 years ago. And he was basically trying to drum up a lot of media support, trying to tell everyone what red flags were. And I got a call from Fox 2, and they said, hey, Rick, you know anything about red flag laws? And I said, no, not particularly. I said, if you want me to comment, just give me a general sense of what this red flag law business is. And so he then proceeded to share what it was, and I had some reservations, and essentially, here's a speaker who's introducing me as I was speaking before the Southeast Michigan Tea Party talking about the red flag law. And I said, well, look,